I bought a new machine. It's a kind of machine that I always found really fascinating, but I never deemed it necessary enough for what I do to actually try and get one. But I checked up on my eBay Kleinanzeigen, which is basically the German Craigslist, and sure enough there was a guy selling one just in the neighboring village. So I jumped on the opportunity and I had a look at it, and it looked excellent, so I bought it. And this is it. It's an Elektra Beckum TF 900 spindle moulder, Tischfräsmaschine in German, which literally translates to table milling machine, and it was made in 1990 in West Germany. And if you don't want to miss my next video, in which we're gonna dive deep into the inner works and the construction of this machine, you should definitely activate the subscribe button and the bell, because in this video we're gonna cover all the features and the basic operation of this machine. And this is actually really funny, because on this label it says Elektra Beckum Tischfräsmaschine, Markenzeichen fortschrittlicher Technik, which basically translates to a trademark or a token of progressive technology. Come on guys, it's a spindle moulder. But I have to admit that there's some serious and interesting innovation going on with this machine. And the first question we have to answer is, what league does this machine play in? And that's obviously a woodworking machine, but that's not what I'm talking about. I think that modern day tool manufacturers would try to make you believe that this is their new industrial heavy-duty line of machines, when I would say this is a good, solid, long-term use hobby machine. And I would even go as far as claiming that this is actually a semi-stationary machine. Simply because it can be wheeled around quite easily on two dollies by a single person. And I couldn't find the actual weight anywhere on the machine or in the documents, so I weighed it using our bathroom scale, and as you can see, it weighs a mere 95 kilograms. Contrasting, for example, my Ulmia table saw, which is not that much bigger, but which I can barely wiggle a little bit, and which therefore definitely counts as a stationary machine. Better not try this with the bathroom scale. And for all you non-woodworking guys out there, this machine uses big cutters to mill away large volumes of wood and generate a vast array of different profiles. And since those cutters are a lot larger than what you would get for a router table, they simply cut a lot better and with less tear out and burning. So you want to set up your fence and dial in your depth of cut, and then make sure that your fence is well tightened down and that your cutter is actually free to spin. And then of course also install your safety guard, because you obviously want to keep some of those pokey fingers. And then check that your workpiece is able to pass unobstructed and make your cut. And here is a nice little rabbit. And with different cutters you can do all sorts of different things, like grooving or making raised panels. I've left the guard up so you can see something, and my hands stay nicely out of the danger zone. And what I also really like about this machine is its ability to edge joint a piece, meaning turning a crooked and rough edge into a perfectly straight and tear out free one. And since this cutter uses carbide inserts, I can do this even with stuff like melamine coated particle board or MDF, which would ruin any jointer's high-speed steel knives. But of course a lot of these cutters also use high-speed steel, and of course there are carbide tipped jointer heads. And now that I've scratched the surface on what this machine can do, let's take a closer look at it. And by it I mean the machine and its fence, which is a very interesting unit all by itself. But let's start with the machine. So here on the right we have the controls, our on-off switch obviously, and two hand wheels, and this is for raising and lowering the spindle, and this is for tilting the spindle. And this knob locks the vertical motion of the spindle. So let's loosen this, And now I can raise the spindle. Let's lock it again. And now I need to loosen this knob, and then I can tilt the spindle. And this spindle will tilt 10 degrees backwards and 30 degrees forward. And there's a really nice scale on there, but you know, these scales aren't really all that accurate. So for setting it back to 0 degrees, I would rather check with a tri-square. But for all of the other kind of random angles, this will be just fine, if it doesn't have to be accurate, of course. Every rotation of the hand wheel raises the spindle by 4 millimeters, and there's even a little dial on there, like on a milling machine, which you can zero and then go from there, and this is pretty cool. Down here we have a little speed chart with the RPMs on this axis and the tool diameter on this axis. And down here in this region it says that there is a high risk for kickback, Rückschlag in German. Basically when you're running a small tool too slow or running a big tool too slow, it doesn't really matter. But here it says danger kickback. And then here in the middle we have kind of the optimum, where you are reaching the optimal cutting speed for wood, which is about 50 meters per second. And then up here it says that there's an increasing risk of your tool shattering, and that's going to be very loud. So let's say I have a tool with 160 millimeters in diameter, then I can go from right around 5,000 RPMs all the way up to 8,000 RPMs and be on the safe side. Except, of course, if the manufacturer of the tool says otherwise. This machine will run at 3,000, 6,000 and 9,000 RPMs. But how are you supposed to know which speed the machine is currently set to? Well, by looking at this little window. And this is a really nice mechanical display. In order to change the speed, you have to open the back cover. And down here is another nice little chart which tells you which position on those 3-stage pulleys correspond to which speed. And in order to change the speed, I have to undo this lever which untightens the belt. And then I can shift the belt from one position to the next. Then retighten this, and notice how this little fork thing always has to follow the belt, and this is what operates our little mechanical display up there via this Bowden cable. And now we're good to go with 3,000 RPMs. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, like any decent appliance in a German household, this runs on 400 volt 3-phase power. I think they also made a version that runs on 240 volt single phase, probably for export or something. So let's take a look at the spindle next. It is 30 millimeters in diameter and about 140 millimeters long, and the threaded part is about 45 millimeters long. And all the space on the spindle that's not being occupied by a tool must be filled up with those spacer rings. And this is the nut. And this is actually quite cool because this is a 2-part assembly with the nut on top and then this collar which is actually keyed into the spindle. And this means that you can hold the spindle in place with a wrench and then tighten the nut down on it. But this also means that this nut will never come undone, no matter which direction the spindle is spinning. However, this spindle can currently only spin counterclockwise. and there's absolutely no need to tighten this down like a madman. And in case you need to use really tiny cutters, the machine does come with some throat inserts. Which I apparently can't get in or out. Shit. Come on. What is the matter with you? Here we go. And those 4 holes are for attaching a power feeder, which I don't have. Which I would of course love to have, but these guys are freaking expensive. Next, let's talk about this fence. And I'm gonna start right now by telling you that this fence attaches to the machine with those 4 studs. And it is held in place by screwing in those 4 knobs from underneath, which is a bit of an inconvenience. The fence has 2 faces made from extruded aluminum, which can be adjusted in and out by loosening this handle. And then each of the faces can also be adjusted in this direction by turning these knobs, which is really neat. And in order to adjust those, they have to be pulled out, and then each revolution is 1 millimeter worth of travel of that side of the fence. And this can of course be very useful, for example for setting the machine up for edge jointing, like I did in the beginning of the video. Now, if you have worked with any spindle molders before, you probably know what an absolute pain it can be to set up the fence. Bumping it back and forth 500,000 times until it sort of hits the spot where you need it. Not so with this one, because this one actually slides on those 2 rails and can be adjusted very nicely with this knob. And then it gets tightened down with those 2 smaller knobs. And I was skeptical at first, but this turns out to be very precise and also very sturdy. Now the last really important feature of this fence is this safety hood thing. Because let's face it, this machine will mangle any body parts that get in there to the point where there's nothing left to reconstruct. And this hood is held closed with those 2 plastic hooks which pull against those ball detents. So this is for keeping your hands from getting into there, and there's also this little sort of featherboard thing to push the workpiece down on the table. And by loosening this knob, this can be slid forward on this dovetail should you need more space in there. Of course, this can be removed in order to make cuts with the workpiece vertically, but in that case it would probably be safer to use some kind of a secondary fence in order to keep the workpiece from snagging on the edges of this fence. What? You made it to the end of this video? That's freaking amazing, no one does that. But whatever. There's of course a lot more that this machine can do and a lot more accessories that will have to be made. But that's it for this one. See you in the next one, where we're gonna dive deep into the inner works and the construction. Okay, see ya!